The vote is precious, said John Lewis. It is the most powerful, non-violent tool we have in a democratic society, and we must use it. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are assembled here today on a very special occasion, and I welcome all of you to our national seminar on Emerging Trends of Elections in India, organized by the Departments of Political Science and Philosophy in collaboration with the IQAC Scottish Church College. At the very outset, our principal ma'am will address us and we invite her to the dais.
Good morning, everyone. The students and the faculty members and our special guest this morning. Our honorable speaker today, Professor Sanjay Kumar, Co-Director, Lokniti, Center for the Study of Developing Societies, New Delhi, and Professor Iman Kollan Lahiri, Head, Department of International Relations, Jadavpur University, Kolkata, Dr. Shamrat Bhattacharjee, IQAC Coordinator of Scottish Church College, Dr. Rajyasree Ghosh, our bursar, Dr. Bidisha Sinha, Senator Secretary, the Head of the Departments of Political Science and Philosophy, Dr. Ishita Shur and Dr. Varbi Roy, my colleagues from Scottish Church College and from other colleges and universities in India and abroad, and my beloved students. I consider it to be a great privilege for me to welcome you all today for the seminar entitled Emerging Trends of Election in India. We are fortunate enough to have Professor Kumar amongst us. In spite of his very busy schedule, he has come to our college today to interact with the students and faculty members regarding emerging trends of election in India. We are really thankful to him as he has accepted the invitation of Ishita. We are also grateful to Professor Lahiri, who is also with us today. He is on his way now. The two stalwarts in their fields are going to discuss the different recent trends of election in India. Being one of the largest democracy in the world, throughout the world, people always take special interest in election system of India. I hope the participants will be able to know few aspects from our speakers today which they have never thought of. It will be an exciting journey for all of us. In the second half, our students also will present their papers. I wish you all the best, dear students. You are also fortunate enough to get such an audience who are eager to listen to you. May God bless us all today. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We will now be felicitating our guest. We are honored to have among us Professor Sanjay Kumar, Professor and Co-Director of Lokniti. He will be felicitated by our Principal Ma'am, Dr. Madhumanjari Mondol. Ma'am will be assisted by Professor Pradipto Roy, Department of Political Science. I would ask Professor Sanjay Kumar and our principal ma'am to kindly proceed to the dais. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Professor Kumar. We'll begin in 1 minute with Sir's presentation, but before that, we need to introduce our guest. Democracy is based upon the conviction that there are extraordinary possibilities in ordinary people. Let us explore these possibilities, and with this aim, we move on to our first technical session for the day. Our speaker for today is Professor Sanjay Kumar, Professor and Co-Director of Lok Niti, a research program at the Center for the Study of Developing Societies. His core area of research is electoral politics, and using the method of survey, Sir has conducted research on a very wide range of themes like Indian youth, state of democracy in South Asia, state of Indian farmers, slums of Delhi, and electoral violence. He has published widely in national and international journals, and his most recent book is Elections in India, an Overview. Not only this, Sir Professor Kumar has also been an avid writer. He writes regularly for both national and regional newspapers. He is a well-known face on Indian television and has been an international election observer in many countries of the world. So students, I think we are all deeply honored and privileged to have him among us today, and we are all looking forward to hearing him speak on our topic for discussion, which is the emerging trends of elections in India. With this, I welcome Sir once again, and Sir, the stage is yours now.
Thank you for inviting me to the college. I have a very old connection with the college, not formally with the college, but with one of your teachers, Ishita. At CSDS, we organize some workshops. Workshop means to train young scholars in data analysis, and she has been one of the participants long back. And that is the connection I established with this college through Ishita. And we have been discussing about how do we, how do we share the information or the research which we do at CSDS to the younger generation. So in that effort, we have been talking for the last couple of months, thought of a date, and then we thought of a date, which is today, to have this discussion with the young students about elections in India. So, I have a PPT to present, and when we talk about elections, There are few things you can't, in my opinion, you can't talk about without taking numbers. You have to cite numbers. And what are those numbers? The numbers are evidences. So I have a lot of numbers to present. As I say, you can't, somebody's age, you can't say without taking numbers. Somebody's salary, you have to take numbers. You can't say handsome salary, nobody will be satisfied. You have to put it in numbers. So when we talk about elections, we have to talk a lot about numbers. When we say a party has won election, a party has lost election, how many seats, what percentage of votes. So what I'm trying to do today with you is to present a story of elections in India over last 6-7 decades. And the story is divided into 3 parts: story of the past, story of the present, or you can say broadly 2 parts: story of the past and story of the future. When I say future, it is about what are the emerging challenges or what could be the point of discussion in future. But largely the story is about how I see Indian elections unfolded during last 7 decades. Since I knew that I am in West Bengal, so even though the title is Elections in India, I have tried to give you a flavor of what is happening in Bengal also, a little bit. But largely it's about elections in India, a broad picture of how we see elections unfolding in India. So as I said, it's divided into 3 parts: story of the past, current issues in debate, and how do I see the future. So what is the story of the past? And remember, whatever I am going to say, I have the data to substantiate that. What is the story of the past? The story of the past is about electoral participation. What do I see the salient feature in Indian election? Indian elections is all about, look at the last 7 decades. Massive participation, increase in participation. And increase in participation is because interest in election has gone up. So that's the big story of Indian election, that participation in Indian election has increased. Who are the ones who are participating more? Women, young people. These are the people, new entrants to politics, new active participation of women in Indian elections, active participation of young voter in Indian elections. Also, there is a new trend about decisive vote. Large number of voters are taking their own decision, so voters have become more decisive. So these are some of the broad trends in Indian elections. That this is what I see happening in Indian elections. Mixed. We think about pro-incumbency and anti-incumbency. These 2 words are talked about in Indian elections: pro-incumbency, anti-incumbency. And what is this pro-incumbency, anti-incumbency? Means if a party has been in power, the chances of party getting defeated in the next election, which is called anti-incumbency. Pro-incumbency, if the party gets re-elected, if the party gets re-elected, then we call it pro-incumbency. So these are the broad trends. Leadership has become an important point in Indian election, or important factor in Indian election. So the point I'm trying to say is that these are the salient features. If I look at Indian elections during last 7 decades, these are the salient features. And finally, significant shift across caste community. How voters are shifting their loyalty from one party to another. People who had voted for a party earlier now are voting for a different party. So these are the salient features. And for each of these points, now I am going to present the evidence. I work in a research institute, and I strongly believe that if you are doing research, you have to produce some evidence. So the data which I am going to produce is the evidence for that. So look at the first evidence about increased electoral participation. Yeah. So this is the first. We can move. This is the evidence for increased electoral participation. I said that this is the salient feature, or one of the salient features of Indian elections.
increased electoral participation. This is the figures for turnout in Indian elections, percentage of people who vote in Indian elections. And if you look at the data is from 1952 till the 2019 Lok Sabha elections, national elections, whatever you may call. So you look at the numbers. Over a period of time, you can see it is roughly about 60%, little less than 60%. And look at the last figure, which is for the 2019 Lok Sabha election. And what is that number? The number is almost 68%. If you compare it with 2009, there are watersheds in Indian elections in a sense different points. 77 is 1 point. Why 77? Because this is the time when change in the national government. Congress got defeated. 2009, 2019. Another point, 2009, because 2009, at 2014, BJP came to power. 2019, BJP registered a massive victory. Now look at 2009 and 2019. You compare these last 10 years. 2009, turnout of voter was 58%. And if you look at 2019, the turnout is 68%. 10% higher turnout of voters in India. This is an evidence for increased electoral participation. If we go to the next slide, the next slide. Yes. Now it's much better. As I said, I thought I should also give you some glimpse about West Bengal election. So this is the Lok Sabha elections from West Bengal, and look at the turnout figure. So it's not happening only across the country. When it is happening across the country, it must be happening in different states. West Bengal is a state which registers much higher turnout. National turnout is 68%. And what is the turnout in West Bengal? 82%. Much higher. And look at the graph which has gone up from, there was also a time when West Bengal registered almost say 70, 60, 70% turnout. So we see higher turnout even in West Bengal if we compare it with the past election. So the participation of people, of voters in West Bengal has also increased dramatically during last 10-15 years. West Bengal assembly elections. Even in the assembly election, West Bengal is a state which has always witnessed a very high turnout. Normally, bigger states witnessed lower turnout and smaller states witnessed higher turnout. And when I mention about smaller states, most of the states in the northeast, Goa, Himachal, Uttarakhand, these are smaller states. So normally the trend is that bigger states witnessed lower turnout, smaller states witnessed higher turnout. But West Bengal is an exception to that. Even though West Bengal is is in the category of a state. And why large state? Because large number of MPs get elected from West Bengal. Still, West Bengal is a state where the turnout, and what does this indicate? Turnout indicates participation of the people in Indian elections. So you can clearly see that in West Bengal, people are voting in very large numbers, both for the Lok Sabha elections and for the state assembly elections. This is about women turnout. And this is the data of gender deficit, the difference between men and women voter. And this is for the Lok Sabha elections for the entire country. What is this data? The data tells us, the evidence tells us that women voted in lesser number compared to men. These numbers are the gap, the deficit in turnout. So early elections witnessed a deficit of almost 14, 15, 12%, and over a period of time, almost 9 to 10% gender deficit in turnout nationally for the Lok Sabha election. But look at the last point, which is 2019. There is hardly any gender deficit now, and the change started happening from 2004 or 2009. It came down to 4.4%. 2014 election, it came down to 1.4%. Came down means that the gap is narrowing down. And in 2019 elections, nationally, men and women voted in almost equal proportion. This is the data for the national elections for the entire. And I consider this as a big revolution in Indian election. The biggest thing, if somebody asks me this question, what is the biggest thing in my opinion, what is the most significant thing which has happened in Indian electoral politics? I consider this as the biggest event, biggest change in Indian electoral politics, because women on their own have got mobilized, coming to the polling station in much larger numbers and voting in much bigger numbers. They did not require any legislation. We all know that a bill is pending in the parliament for reserving seats for women in Lok Sabha and state assemblies. That has not happened, but look, women turning out to vote on their own. So they have got self-mobilized, and they are now voting in much bigger numbers now compared to the past. The same data for West Bengal now. This is for the Lok Sabha elections, and you can see 2009, the gender deficit was 12%. And over a period of time, the gender deficit has been slightly less in Bengal compared to the national picture. 4%, 5% less women compared to men have turned out to vote. 2009, something exceptional, 12% gender deficit. But look at 2009, and the minus sign indicates more women have voted compared to men. So this is the pattern in West Bengal assembly. This is the pattern for West Bengal Lok Sabha elections, that we see women turning out to vote in much bigger number compared to men in the 2009 Lok Sabha elections. This is the point I am trying to say is, this is not only happening for the Lok Sabha election, this is also happening for the Vidhan Sabha election, the state assembly election. In India, as you know, that every year there are state assembly elections. 12th November, people voted in Himachal, and on the 1st and the 5th of December, people are voting in Gujarat. So every year there are lots of assembly elections. So what I have done, I have not done the analysis for each and every election, because that will be a huge set of data. So what I have done is clubbed all the state assembly elections in a period of time. So look at all the bars which are going down. Minus is the gender deficit, in a sense. Men have voted more, and look at the change which has started taking place from 2010-11, and the last bar, 2015 to 22. So now more women are voting in state assembly elections compared to men. So there is a big change in that also, from minus 4.5. 4.5% less women used to vote earlier compared to men, but now it is 3% higher. So there is a big change in terms of women turnout. It's not only for the Lok Sabha election, it is also for the state assembly election. I am not presenting any data for the local body election, but I am sure even in the local body elections, women are voting in much bigger numbers now compared to the past. Bengal, gender gap. This is the gender deficit. Slide in one of the slide, minus was in favor of gender men, but in most of the slide, like this is the gender deficit in terms of men voting more compared to women in West Bengal assembly elections. But look at by 2021, or last three assembly elections, 2011, 2016 and 2021, 3 elections in a row, women have outnumbered men in Bengal when it came to voting. And we see some relationship. And what is that relationship? The parties which are headed by women leaders, we have seen women getting more mobilized in terms of turning out to vote, and also women vote tilted in favor of the party which is headed by a party leader. When Jayalalitha was the leader of AIADMK in Tamil Nadu, we saw that pattern in Tamil Nadu also. Similar patterns we have seen in some other states where parties are headed by women leaders. If the another example is for say BSP in UP. So it doesn't. So this is the story for elections, that for the last 3 assembly elections, earlier there used to be a gender deficit, more men were voting in elections, but if you look at the people, they don't want you to see that slide. Even if I am not holding it, moving on its own. This is male dominated, doesn't want that to be shown to the people. Technology is male dominated. So I'm moving on from gender to the age now. And as I can see, there's a lot of young people in the classroom. And the important story to convey is young voters are voting in much bigger numbers now compared to the past. What is that comparison? This is average turnout in the Lok Sabha elections and the turnout among the young voters. And what is the definition of young voters? Who are in the age group of 18 to 25. So if you look at from 1996 till 2009, there has almost 4% gap, 4% less turnout among the young voters. But 2014, there was a change, and the turnout among young voters is 2% higher compared to the average turnout. A big change in 2014, and more or less the same pattern continues in 2019 Lok Sabha election. So last 1 decade has also witnessed a higher turnout or of the young voters in Indian elections. And just to share the data for the Bengal elections now. And in this, what I have done, comparing, this is for the 2019 Lok Sabha elections state-wise. The state average turnout and the turnout of the young voters. And Bengal is at number 3. So in Assam, average turnout in the Lok Sabha was 82%, and among the young voters it was 90%. So it was 8% higher turnout of the young voters. Andhra 80 and 87, and Bengal 82 average turnout of all the age group, and among the young voter is 87. And it has been put in that hierarchy. And you look at Delhi is at the bottom. It's lesser turnout among young voters compared to the average turnout in Delhi. And average turnout in Delhi was just 61%, and the average and the turnout among young voters was 48%. So even if whether we are looking at the women voters, they are turning out to vote in much bigger numbers. And if we are even looking at the young voters, it seems young voters are politically more active. And this is an evidence, politically more active. They are participating in the politics in much bigger manner. This is one indicator of participation. But this is a very specific indicator. And what is that indicator? Turning out to vote. Voting, one indicator to suggest that their participation is very high. As I said, if you are not feeling well, if you think that you have a temperature, what is one indicator? You put the thermometer in your mouth and you figure out what is the temperature. So similarly, this is one indicator to suggest higher participation. And what is that indicator? Turnout. People are turning out to vote. So if they have turned out to vote, they are casting their vote, we are sure that they are participating in electoral processes. So it's very clear that if we look at the electoral trend of India during last 6-7 decades, higher participation of women voters, not only in India, not only in Bengal, but we see this happening across the country. Higher participation of young voters, not only in Bengal, but across the country in large number of states. Certainly not in all the states, because there are states where you can see young voters have voted in lesser number compared to the average turnout in that state. So that's story number 1. As I said, what is the story of Indian elections? That's story number one, higher participation of people in Indian elections. And I tried to focus on who are these people who are participating more in Indian elections, women and young. These are the two significant groups who are participating in Indian elections in a big way. The second story, voters are voting more decisively now. Whether they want to elect a candidate of TMC or BJP or RJD or any other party, voters are voting more decisively, irrespective of party. So that's story number one, that winner are winning with much bigger margins. If winner are winning with much bigger margins, why it is happening? It is happening because voters are voting more decisively. Now, what is the evidence for that? As I said, whatever I say, I produce and I try to substantiate my argument by giving you an evidence. And what is that evidence? So this is the evidence. This is 2019 Lok Sabha elections. And there are 14 states where BJP either alone or in alliance with their partner, BJP polled more than 50%. And if a party gets more than 50% votes, there is no way you can defeat that party in that state or a constituency. So these are the states where BJP's vote share. Himachal, 69%. Gujarat, it's 59%. There's a typo. Rajasthan, 61, 58, 58. So these are 14 states where BJP has got polled more than 50% votes. This has hardly happened in Indian elections earlier, that a party gets more than 50% votes in 14 states. Now, you may think, is it happening only with regard to BJP? No, it's not with regard to BJP. The winner, people are voting for the winner in more decisive manner, irrespective of party. As I said earlier, if they want to vote for AIMIM candidate, they will vote for AIMIM candidate in a big way. If they want to vote for BJP, they are voting for BJP. And what is this? This is the gap between number one and number two. This is the gap between runner and the winner. And what does the bigger the gap means? The winner has won with a bigger margin. It has left behind the runner by a bigger margin. If you look at, this is the Lok Sabha elections, putting all the winner together and the runner together. So the gap over a period of time has been roughly about 10%. So the winner is leaving behind the runner by 10% votes. 2014, it increased to almost 14-15%. And in 2019, it further increased to almost 17%. This is an indication to suggest, this is an evidence to suggest people are voting more decisively for the winner. So when they vote, when they choose their voter, they vote decisively for the vote, for the candidate. There was a time when voters were not voting decisively, and we had a long period of coalition government at the center between 91 till 1998, 2004, 2000, up till 2009. But after that, this is the indication. Till 2009, the gap between 1 and 2 was almost 10%, but after that it has increased further. So this is an indication to suggest voters are voting more decisively now compared to the past. Again, this is not the story, as I said, for one party. This is the story for all the party. One more point, this is not the story only for the Lok Sabha election. This is the story even for the state assembly elections. And now I will give you some ideas about how it is happening. Look at UP, 2017 and 2022. BJP won these two elections decisively, massive victory of BJP. 2022 UP election is important because last 27-30 years, no sitting chief minister managed to win its second election. BJP managed to do that in UP. Tripura, 2018, BJP won a massive victory in 2018. Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, Congress registered big victories in Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh in 2018 assembly elections. Assam 2017 and 2021, BJP registered big victories. Delhi 2015, 2020, Aam Aadmi Party registered big victory. And don't forget your own state, West Bengal, Trinamool Congress registered massive victory in 2016 and 2021. So the point I'm trying to convey with this evidence is this is not only happening for the Lok Sabha, this is the trend even in the state assembly election. This is not the trend only for one political party, this is the trend across political parties. As you can see, you have BJP state, you have Congress, you have Aam Aadmi Party, and you have Trinamool Congress. There could be few more examples. Only yesterday I was in Hyderabad, so Telangana, another state where the TRS, which is now BRS, Telangana Rashtriya Samiti, has now become Bharatiya Rashtriya Samiti. So that party registered massive victory in the assembly election. So this is happening so this is point number 2. Number 1 was the big trends, increased electoral participation, and the second is decisive mandates, people voting decisively. And these are the evidence for people voting decisively. Okay, one more slide for people voting decisively. Again from your own state, Bengal. And you look at the gap between number 1 and number 2. And in state assembly election in terms of votes, 17%, 11%, 12%, and in a multi-party contest. Earlier it was not multi-party, it was left and the Congress, but still 10-12% gap between two, if there are two alliances, is a huge gap. It is like in your class, there are many students, so number 1, the topper gets 90% and the second one gets 80%. So 10% gap is a huge gap. So in Bengal also we have seen decisive mandates, though if you look at 2021 also, it's a decisive mandate, 10% gap between number 1 and number 2, though the players have changed now, it is now TMC and BJP. In terms of seats, decisive mandate in West Bengal, this is the gap. So in a house of 284, 83, the gap is of more than 100 seats. 135, 135, 165, 204. It's a massive mandate in favor of the winner. Whether the winner is, you can see early winners left, then you have Trinamool Congress. Moving on to the third aspect of Indian electoral democracy. There is a lot of talk about anti-incumbency because we tend to believe that Indian election is all about anti-incumbency, that the governments get defeated. Most governments get defeated. But and the point I'm trying to say is that Indian elections is not only about anti-incumbency. We have seen periods of anti-incumbency and pro-incumbency. So both the trend goes hand in hand together. Governments get defeated, governments get re-elected. We don't look at the evidence, we believe that it's like temperature or your body temperature or your weather. We have to look at the evidence. We can't say it's raining outside. We have to go and look at outside. We can't imagine that sitting in this classroom, it's very cold. Calcutta, it's chilly. It's not chilly. We are sitting in a room where the AC is functioning. We have to go outside and figure out what is the temperature. So the point is that look at the evidence. Indian elections is not only about anti-incumbency. We have seen a period of pro-incumbency and anti-incumbency. That's point number 3. And this is the evidence. What I have done, you look at the last figure. I have collected the data for 374 assembly elections. And out of these 374 assembly elections, 196 governments got re-elected, 171 governments got defeated. Do we see a trend? If we convert it into percentages, this is 52% and 46%. The point is, half of the time governments are getting re-elected, more or less half of the time governments are getting defeated. So can we say Indian election is about pro-incumbency or anti-incumbency? It is a mix of both. These are the periods. So you look at 51 to 66, it's a period of pro-incumbency. 85% of governments got re-elected. Re-election, re-election. If we look at the 90s was the time of anti-incumbency. 71% governments got defeated. 61% governments got defeated. Then again we had between 2004 and 2014 pro-incumbency. Then again, if you look at 2016 and 18, it is anti-incumbency. So the point is that there is no fixed trend. It's not that Indian election is only about anti-incumbency. We have periods of pro-incumbency. We have periods of anti-incumbency in Indian election. Point number 4. What is that point number 4 now? Voters are voting independently. More voters are voting independently. And in this, women has taken a lead, because we keep hearing that women don't vote on their own. They are guided by the male members in the family. This is the evidence from the studies which we have been doing, asking a question: did you vote on your own, or you took advice from others? So 2009 election, decided on my own, 54%, 2014, 62%, and if we look at 2019, it is 81%. So voters are voting on their own, more voters are voting on their own compared to the past. This is an evidence from the large-scale surveys which we have been doing at CSDS. And I must mention that still a majority of women take advice from the male members of the family, but we have traveled a long way. There was a time earlier, say in 2000 till 2009, almost 70% women would say that we have took advice from the male members, but now it has gone down to almost say 45-46%. So there is a change in that respect also. May not be to the extent as we would have loved to see in such a short period, but there is a change happening in that respect also. So this is point number 4 or 5, whatever counting you may have, that voters are voting on their own. More voters are taking their own voting decision. More voters are taking their own voting decision. Now moving on to the another section. As I said, there is a lot of churning among the voters. Churning means voters are shifting their loyalties from one party to another. Remember, BJP is a party which has added, almost BJP's vote has got doubled vote share at the national level in the last 10 years. 2009 Lok Sabha election, BJP's vote share was 18%, 18.6. And in 2019 Lok Sabha elections, BJP's vote share is 37. No party, or hardly any party at the national level, has been able to add so much of votes, double. It is like in a class, एक स्टूडेंट को 40% मार्क्स आया एक एग्जाम में, नेक्स्ट एग्जाम और विद इन 5 years getting 80%. Not easy. I'm not saying it can't happen. It has happened. BJP has added almost 20% votes in 10 years. Doubled from 18% to 37%. It's a huge increase in support base. So the few slides about where BJP is getting this support from. Rural India, BJP has consolidated among its supporters, which is the upper caste, but they have expanded among the Dalits and Adivasis. So these are the evidences now. BJP's expansion in the rural India. And what is that expansion? If we look at the rural India, this is the vote in 2014 and this is vote in 2019. Still BJP gets more vote in urban India, 41 and 38. 38% in the rural India, 41% votes in urban India. But look at the increase from 2014 and 2019. From 30 to 38. 8% increase. And in urban India, 39 to 41. So what has happened is that BJP has expanded its support base enormously in rural India. If I look at this data, same rural India and urban India, for early election, 96, 98, 99, 99, 2000, 98, 99, this is the time when BJP was in power. Vajpayee was the prime minister of the country. BJP means NDA was in power. But at that time, BJP's vote in the rural India was just 10%, not more than that. And now they are getting 40% votes in rural India, 38% votes in rural India. Massive increase in support base in rural India for BJP. This is the upper caste vote. As I said, upper caste voters have always voted for BJP. These are from the studies which we have been doing. The surveys, large scale nationwide surveys, these are estimates from nationwide surveys. Don't get confused. This is not from the Election Commission. This is not an official data of Election Commission. This is from the research which we have done. 61% of upper caste have voted for BJP in 2019. If we look at 2014, it was 47%. Classes, in terms of class, we have always heard of a slogan, Garib ka haath, Congress ke saath, which is to say, the poor have always been with the Congress. Even when Congress lost power in 1977, Congress lost power in 1998 and 99, but because the poor always sided with the Congress. But there is a big change in that also. And look at BJP's inroads among the poor voters. 36%. And look at the change in the last 5 years. 2014, Narendra Modi became the Prime Minister and he contested the next election in 2019. 5 years of BJP's rule, BJP's inroads among the poor voters from 24% to 36%. Almost 12% addition. Among the upper middle class, not much. It has increased 38 to 44. But look at the inroad among the poor voters. The biggest change is among the poor voters, support base. Lower class 5%, middle class 6%, 6% there, but in this 12%, almost double. So that's a big inroad for the BJP among the poor voters. OBC. BJP has been very, very careful in inculcating support base among the OBCs. Because OBCs are in sizable numbers. Almost there are different estimates about OBCs nationally, but a rough estimate would suggest 45% of India's population is OBC. And look at BJP's support base among OBC. Of the 45% voters, BJP is getting 50%, almost 50% vote. Massive inroad, and that is why some of the regional parties are getting, there's a decline in the support base of regional party, because traditionally, if you look at the Congress support and BJP support base among rural India, among OBCs, it is roughly 20-22%. Half of the OBC votes goes to the regional party, used to go to the regional party. No more the situation. Now BJP has got 44% of the OBC votes. So BJP has made huge inroads among the OBCs. Same is the story for the Dalit voters. These are national estimates. BJP used to get almost 12% votes among the Dalits. Now BJP in the last election has got 33%. 1/3 of the Dalit vote has been cornered by BJP. Same is the story for the Adivasi vote. From 20%, 24%, now it has moved on to 44%. This is the success story of BJP's increasing support base, from where BJP has got this massive support, through which BJP has been able to add almost 20% votes during last 5 years, 10 years. Don't be confused or don't, I would like to clarify, it should not be a misinterpretation that I am relating a success story of BJP. This is from the evidence. Yes, it's not that someone is siding with BJP or not siding with BJP. This is the real situation. This is what has happened. This is what has happened in the support base of political party during last 10 years. The problem with the Congress, Muslim support base of Congress has also declined enormously. And Muslim support has now moved to the regional party, your own home state. Where is the Muslim vote going now? We all know what has happened to Congress here. Congress in UP, Congress in Bihar, Congress in Delhi. And very soon it might happen even in Gujarat. Who knows? What is the problem with the Congress? Congress has not been able to retain even the Muslim support base. Wherever there is a regional party, strong regional party, and Muslim voters have got an opportunity, they have shifted their vote to that regional party. Like in Bengal, large number of Muslims vote for Trinamool Congress. We can move from state to state. UP, Samajwadi Party, Bihar, RJD. So this is the tragedy with the Congress, that they have not been able to retain even their, this is the core support base of Congress. Used to be Muslims, Dalits and OBCs. They have not been able to retain, and even the Muslims have now moved away from Congress and they have shifted towards the regional parties. This is for the Bengal now. Between 2021 and 19. And why 2019 and 2021? Because these are two watershed elections. In a sense, because very lot of talked about election. 2019, BJP registered a sizable victory. BJP managed to win 18 states. And after that, BJP put in a lot of effort for the state assembly election, which was held in 2021. But BJP could not succeed to the extent as they succeeded in 2019 or the way BJP had expected. So what happened between 2019 and 2021? The vote shares. This is for support base for Trinamool Congress. So between 19 and 2021, the Brahmin support, all plus means BJP, Trinamool Congress support increased between 19 and 21. So almost in all the groups, except for other upper caste minus Brahmins and caste and the Namashudras. So this was the reason for the massive victory of Trinamool Congress in 2021, even though they had a setback in 2019. Setback doesn't mean that they lost 2019. They did manage to win sizable number of seats, but BJP performed far better compared to many people's expectations, and BJP managed to get 18 seats. BJP support base. What happened to BJP between 2019 and 2021? So you can see BJP lost support base among the caste, among other upper caste, among OBCs, among Dalits, among Adivasis, among Muslims is negligible, 7-4%, which is also an indication that voters vote differently now compared to the past in a Lok Sabha election and in assembly election. This is one evidence. There are many more evidence. Delhi is a good example. 2014 Lok Sabha elections, 2019 Lok Sabha elections, Delhi voters voted for BJP in a big way. And when it came to the assembly elections, BJP people of Delhi voted for Aam Aadmi Party in a big way in 2015 and 2020 assembly elections. This is another example. Even in Bengal, different people have voted differently in 2019 and 2021. Another point about, I mentioned leadership has become an important factor in Indian election. This is the popularity graph of Prime Minister Modi. It's not only about Narendra Modi being popular and being instrumental in BJP's victory in all over the country, but if you look at even the leaders of regional parties, your own home state again, Mamata Banerjee instrumental in Trinamool Congress victory. And we can keep moving from state to state. Naveen Patnaik, your neighboring state, instrumental in BJD's victory. Most of the regional parties are headed by or very powerful regional leader. They have been instrumental in parties' victory in their own state. So leadership has become very important in Indian elections. This is another evidence how important Narendra Modi has been for BJP's victory. This is a question which we asked in the survey. If Modi was not the prime ministerial candidate, would you have still voted for BJP? And our assessment from that question is that 1/3 of the BJP voters may have voted for another party if Modi was not the prime ministerial candidate, which is to say, the 100 votes which BJP got nationally, 33 votes came or was only of Modi. So almost 1/3 of BJP support is because of Narendra Modi. This is an evidence. We keep talking about how important is Narendra Modi's role in BJP's victory. So this is the importance. Almost 1/3. How do we get this? Again, through the studies, through the surveys which we have conducted. Those were the stories of the past, 5 or 6 new trends which I have seen in Indian elections. Now moving on to the issues of concerns and challenges. What are the concerns and what are the challenges? Few slides on that. What are the concerns and what are the challenges? We keep talking about money and muscle power in Indian elections. Lot of candidates get elected to the parliament and state assemblies who have tainted background, not in a sense, lot of criminal cases pending against them. Role of money power, lot of money is required for contesting election. That's all right. You need money to contest election. You need money even for your, if you want to, visit some place. So, but the problem is that a lot of black money is being used for contest in elections, and undue amount of money is being spent in elections. So, if you don't have money your chances of getting elected to the parliament or state assemblies, or leave aside parliament, state assemblies, even for the local body elections, very difficult. So, so money is playing a role which is exceptional in a sense. Too much of money is being pumped into elections. This is some examples of that. 2017 and 2022 assembly elections, in the recent assembly elections which were held in UP, Uttarakhand, Goa, Manipur and Punjab. What was the expenditure of BJP in those 4 states? This is the official expenditure of BJP. I am not talking about the unofficial expenditure of candidates, etc. This is what BJP has declared, that this is our expenditure. And even that is a big figure. So BJP's expenditure in 2017, 218 crores, went up to 344 crores. Similarly, Congress expenditure from 108 crores to 194 crores. This is, remember, this is the officially declared expenditure by the party. Unofficial, undeclared expenditure is maybe 10 times more than that. So you can imagine how expensive Indian elections have become. These are state-wise expenditure by BJP, UP from 175 crores to 221 crores. All this data indicate that elections have become so expensive, and lot of like the black money is being pumped to these elections. If I look at the Lok Sabha elections and look at the expenditure, 2004 Lok Sabha election, BJP, again I am saying this is the officially declared, this is the party which has declared, given it in writing to Election Commission. Remember, other expenditure is far more bigger compared to these expenditure. From 102 crores to 1260 crores of BJP from 2004 to 2019 for each and every party. Congress 149, 820 crores. NCP in Maharashtra. This is the story for most of the party. So these are the issues of concern. Like money and muscle power is a issue of big concern for Indian elections. Thank you. Thank you for your patient hearing.
Thank you, sir, for sharing some very interesting data about new theories and trends of Indian elections with us. From the ballot to the bullet, Indian elections have indeed come a long way, and we have seen a very interesting journey highlighting gender, youth, and different other aspects, popularity, political leaders, and so on. And the list was endless. And once again, we thank sir. We will move on to our second technical session, which will have Professor Imon Kollan Lahiri as the speaker. Dr. Lahiri is head, Department of International Relations, Jadavpur University. His area of specializations are Southeast Asia, Asia Pacific, Northeast India, political economy, new media, and human rights. Sir has authored and edited several books, was nominated under US Department of Summer Institute program at the University of South Carolina. He is also the executive editor of the ICSSR supported journal JAIR, Journal of International Relations. Dr. Lahiri is a regular contributor to different journals and newspapers, a regular participant on TV and radio programs on international affairs. So we are indeed deeply honored to have him among us. Sir, it's an immense pleasure to see you here. We welcome you to the dais. We will now be felicitating our guest, and to do the honors, I would request Professor Dr. Mona Lisa Basu of the Department of Political Science to kindly do the honors. Thank you, Dr. Basu. So students, we will begin our second technical session, and once again I welcome Dr. Lahiri, and sir, now the stage is yours.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. At the outset, I thank Pradipto and his colleagues to invite me this morning. And of course, the students, I thank you all to be here. And my co-speaker, sir, thank you so much. I'm not an expert on elections, but Pradipto told me that you can say something, I guess, on elections, because I'm very hardcore international relations person. I'm not a political science person in that way. But, when you stay in West Bengal, you cannot just go out of politics. So everything you do, whatever we are doing and whatever we are teaching, the state politics is coming in. And of course, West Bengal is coming in because you are coming all the way from Delhi, but when you enter West Bengal, of course, the political influences cannot ignore us in that way. But first of all, that after the government, BJP government coming into power, and of course, today we are discussing every day the debate between autocracy and democracy. So sometimes we say our leaders as autocrat, but we demand, and of course the students demand, democracy in that way. And there lies the difference between autocracy and democracy when we just distinguish two countries, India and China. Because in India, whatever you do, whatever you see, 500 million people, you need to convince to get an output or any decisions. And in China, only 5 people are taking the decisions. So this is the very, very interesting thing that when we perceive the election process in India as a whole. Now, what is again important, that when you discuss about these issues rather, and particularly the students will understand when they study the elite theory in their political science syllabus. I think many of the teachers present here, they teach elite theory in that way to the students. Now, you know that when we talk about the elite theories, we talk about Pareto, we talk about Mosca, we talk about Michels, and we talk very important thing all about, that is iron law of oligarchy and circulation of the elites. And you know that when we teach these two theories, we teach the students, or of course the students just study the very basic concept of political parties and political processes. And there we also study the concept of institution, the concept of organization, and so on. So when you're dealing about India, you see that how many times and what is the quantum or what is the volume of this kind of issues we discuss in India compared to the European countries. The population is huge in that way. And you know, this iron law of oligarchy is unbreakable. You cannot break that. So we need to form institutions to protect that in that way. Sometimes we just rely upon certain institutional factors like election commission in India, or the government itself, that how they are conducting elections in India and what is the perceived notion of the population who are casting vote, particularly the voters who are 18 and above of their age and eligible to cast their voting rights. Now, interestingly enough, after COVID, when we have seen that whatever happened, everything was closed, but elections held regularly. And you know that we cannot go out, we cannot move out, there are so many problems, the lockouts were going on. But when the election dates were announced, it was not stopped, because everybody needed the election. Why did they elect the election? And that is again the very basic concept of political science, that is the scarcity of resources. You know, I faced in my local area that whatever fund government is giving, the food, the potatoes, the rice to the people, you know, the other basic commodities were absent. The milk, many of the people did not get, the children, newborn children could not get proper milk every day. You know, many of the problems coped up at that time. So we faced regular problem with huge intensity, but elections took place. And after elections, again the COVID got spread, the second wave came in, the third wave came in, again the lockdown started. But you know that this voting behavior, voting pattern, participation remained important, even the role of the political parties as a whole. Now, just interestingly enough, I think many of you don't understand Bengali here. How many of you understand Bengali? All of you mostly. Sir, you understand Bengali? So, most of you understand Bengali. So, when you were very young and you were studying in college or university, you know that we are all political people. We strived, and I'm from Jadavpur University background. I definitely took part in the political process that took place at that time, from Students' Union to Hope, Colorado. And you know that we used to listen to Kobi Shuman's songs and music. And at that time it was a left regime. And you know that Shuman suddenly sang a song that Brigade Michil hobe, Boddo Uchute Macha, Brigade Michil hobe, Boddo Nichute Bacha. So, it is very, very interesting that how you define the election role, the role of the electorates, who is going to cast vote. But it is also important that all of us, we need to go to brigade, but we never ask the question, why? Today also, you see brigade cholo, but why we are going to brigade? For what? For giving rights to the elites to rule, or to protect our own rights to vote? This remained a very important question. And again, you know that sometimes we have seen in many television shows rather, when students are asking a question to any of the political elites, we mark them as any XYZ factor. We never define them. what is Marxism, what is Maoism, what is rightist approach, what is leftist approach, but the intention is very important how the election process works. So just after COVID, I was in Delhi for a very important meeting where the UN and the UNICEF chief in India, they interacted few of us for a very definite course which is known as SBCC. Social behavior and communication change. Why do we need social behavior? Why do we need communication change? Because to protect our identity rather. Now when we talk about election process, we talk about the campaign, we talk about the stage, we talk about the announcement of results and subsequent government formation. Now this is very restrictive way of understanding election. And you know, the election studies constitute a very distinct subject of studies on democracy, as I've already mentioned, which focuses how to speak on the mechanics more than on the substance of the representative democracy. Now, this subgenre being relatively more visible than other studies of representative democracy. So in representative democracy, the studies on election remain very, very important. I think Professor is here from SDS who described to you very, very technical aspects of election and the processes of election. But most interestingly, as I was talking, that there are certain individual level theories based on which we can define the aspect of election in India. First is the perception and conflicts that we see every day. How do you define? Did you ever ask, as I have already mentioned, that again I can just repeat another song, but don't ask any questions. But we have the right to ask questions. Because if you ask a question, you'll be put behind the bars. And if you write something, you put behind the bars. Now, there was a debate, I don't know in times now, you can see it in YouTube, in Arnab Goswami's show. Once upon a time, in 2016, I was in Bombay. So Arnab called me, are you free tonight? I'm like, yes, I'm free. I never knew what is going on in JNU, what is going on in Jadavpur. At that time, I was in Bombay University. I was dealing with a very different case at that time. So I never asked him what is the talk all about. But I went to his studio at that time. Suddenly he said that Smriti Irani has said that we have to hoist the national flag at 250 feet. I said, in the television show it was going on. I said, why? Why do we need to hoist the flag at 250 feet? We can hoist the flag anytime, anywhere we feel like, according to the flag rule. And that there is a dictate by the Home Ministry. And why Smriti Irani is so interested to hoist the flag at 250 feet? I contested. The pluralistic idea of India has been contested by MHRD ministry. I said it cannot be done. Then I will ask Ramakrishna Mission or Scottish Church College not to just give this logo or host any flag and host the national flag rather. So pluralism has its own identity. With due respect, on 15th August, 26th January, every institution hosts the national flag. And we can host the national flag anytime. And if it is a problem-solving mechanism, just kindly go to Jammu and Kashmir or northeastern states, host the national flag and solve out the problems. Arnab said you are an anti-national. I said, of course, Tagore was an anti-national. Vivekananda was an anti-national. Everybody was an anti-national and proud to become an anti-national. You know, 158 cases have been filed against me. I said, fine. Then when I came back, and it was an FIR that I am an anti-national, I am going against the dictate of the Constitution. Then I asked that why we are doing it. The ruling or the dictate must come from the Home Ministry, not from the MHRD. They said, no, you don't deserve to become a teacher. I'm like, fine. Again, so you ask my students that whether they want me to become a teacher or not. So I asked my students. On that press was there on that day. When I came back to Kolkata, I entered into the class and 72 people were sitting. The full class was there. They said, no, sir, we are in support with you. If they put you inside the bus, we are going with you. So the press covered up and, Ananda Bajar Sange Shumon hosted a special show that the professor has been attacked by the government. 2 days later, I got a mail from the government. We are sorry, you are right, that the flag should be hosted. That rule should come from the Home Ministry, not MHRD Ministry. And Sita Irani lost his position and he became some other textile minister from the Minister of MHRD. This was the story. Now, why the perception is important? This is the perception. Do the nation really wants to know or not? So, if I raise a voice, if I say something, if I ask something, it was a time in 2016 and 17, all of us was anti-national. So the question is that how the voters behave. And there lies a very important question on the conflictual situation, because in any media also, the fourth structure, maybe a media, the conflict exists and the perception is given to the voters. Because voters are not deriving any perception of their own, like as I've started with Pareto's idea, go back to that people are either foxes-like or lion-like. I think many of you remember it. The second, the idea or a practice, that is the diffusion of innovations. Sometimes some television host saying nation wants to know, rather, of course nation wants to know, but why you are spreading a practice to a population? How you are spreading a practice to the population? Because during COVID time taught us many things when food was not there. You know that transgender has not got any food for 1 month in Bengal. After that we intervened and we spread the food to them. So nation doesn't want to know about all this. So nation wants to know whether the emblem, national flag will be hosted at 250 feet or not. We all respect national flag in that way. But the question is, why do you unnecessarily spread practice through the population, through our population rather, not the entire population in that way? And this is how the voting pattern in India works. Suppose the panchayat elections. Government is there with a huge mandate. Then why still you are rigging? Why you are just giving false votes? If you ask them, they don't have any idea. Again, you know that to teach, I think again, Nochiketa Shegan, there's a song by Nochiketa again, that I want my son to become a minister, not anything else. Because if he's not deserving the Ministry of Mines today, then he will become the Minister of Education tomorrow. And I need to teach him how to become a minister. So I will keep an ex-minister as his tutor to teach him how to become a minister. That is again very interesting rather. Because minister is something. And you know, again that song is coming into my mind. So these are very, very, this thing. So a man is asking, what do you do? He said it's a Vaishnav. He doesn't take chicken, mutton, anything. So I just eat some onions. You take onions? No, not every day. I don't take onion every day. When I eat chicken or mutton, you eat chicken or mutton? Oof, that is also not for the whole day. I eat chicken and mutton when I don't go to any household to take some things out. Well, you are a thief. Well, no, I am not a thief. When in a year I don't go for dakaiti, I become a thief, small thief. Well, you are a robber. I said, no, I am not always a robber. When I'm inside the jail, I was not a robber. When I'm outside the jail, I am a robber. I cannot just allow my daughter to get married to you. Well, don't worry, I'm contesting the election. Well, you are contesting the election, then you are the best person to marry my daughter. I know you'll be saved. So this is again the question of perception rather. And the third is the stages through which people go through when adopting the behaviors, the voting behaviors. How do we adopt the voting behaviors? That is also very, very interesting. And there are the stages of change. The stages of change. That we need change. And change is inevitable. Whether from the Marxian perspective, whether if you go for any other perspective, change is inevitable. And if you just recall an advertisement by ABP, ulte dekhun palte geche. So if you just change it, it will automatically get changed. So change again is inevitable as a process. Now again, we have to understand, when you do, and I know that sir has given a lecture on psephology basically, and if you are contesting those kind of thing, and it's a debate between psephology and hardcore political theory comes in, then it's very again complicated. Because for a very long time, we never knew what psephology is. Because it's a phenomenon that grasped in public. Maybe for NDTV, maybe for Rajya Sabha TV, whatever it is, or maybe for the local interpretations we get today. There are books, but the question is that why this kind of studies we are conducting in India, and what is the results all about? This is very interesting because at the end of the day, we have to understand that voters are rational and have controls over their behavior. So if we don't understand it, the Constitution of India will be contested. So if you don't want that, we have to understand as a student of political science that voters, they are human beings, they have control over their emotions and behavior. So they need change. So they demand for change. But what is not allowing them to do is the essence of, as I mentioned, that is perception and conflicts that exist in the Indian society. Maybe very, very hugely in West Bengal. So what is important for elections in India, rather, is to have, maybe for the political elites, because we have to understand the fact the political elite system is unbreakable. If elections are there, elites will be there. It doesn't matter who is coming from France to contest the election or who is coming from Italy to contest the election. It is important that we have to concentrate on 3 E's rather. One is empathy, one is ethics, and one is economics. So if you ask the government in center now, they will say, we have empathy. We are giving subsidies to the gas to the poor people. Even though the cost of the gas is more than 1,000 rupees. So we buy oil, yes, you use your Citibank card, you will get 8 rupees back as reward. Government is empathetic to us. Ethics, yes, we are ethical. We demanded Ram Rajya. We have already made the temple during COVID times. The ethics is there. So ethically, we believed in our platform of religious identity. You see, my chief minister is wearing a pura dress of a monk and sitting in the chair of a CM. We are secular. We are respecting constitution. And the third, economics, no, we are very bad into that. We are looking into it. For 10 years, we are looking into it. Cast vote to us. Banks will be deprivatized. And people will again wait with their voting behavior for another 5 years to cast the vote. To build up economics. For any civil society, everything, every society has its own democracy. As I have already mentioned, I was giving the definition of India and China for a macro level parameter. But if you ask me that whether China is having democracy, it has. Whether Kolkata is having democracy, it has. Whether Bankura is having democracy, it has. Every society is having its own democratic process. At the same time, every society is having its own economic process. Every society has its own gambling place. You cannot deny. These things are very important. So, economics is important, gambling is also important. So, if you ask me that jua khela bondo hoye jabe, no, it will never. It will be there. So, this is again a very interesting thing of any society. So, how could he define ethics? That is also a very important issue to understand. Now, we believe, or as we are perceived, particularly maybe in India, maybe in West Bengal, maybe in any other state, the socio-economic model. And here lies two important things, the individual and the environmental factors. And environmental factors, as I mentioned, the elites create when the nation wants to know. And if you see the Hirograja Deshe, I don't know, many of you might have seen, there is a proverb, teacher must not say much, because others will come to know what is reality. So, era joto beshi jane, toto kom mane. So, don't know too much. It is bad for you. It is bad for you. And if you see Shankar Ghosh poems sometimes, and he has written a book at the time, Bondhura Mati Torcha. It was a political book again. And it was banned. The book till date comes out without any name. Name of the book is Bondhura Mati Torcha. So if you speak too much, shipai to ache. So there is a student who is very pro to BJP government at that time. And sitting in Jadavpur University, he is writing so many things in favor of BJP. I said, it's very good. You are protected. But how, sir? I said, 9 lakh army is protecting you. We have no protection. So we criticize sometimes. And moreover, the Air Force is there, Defense Force is there, the Naval Force is there to protect you. So you are writing these things. But in reality, the customary rules and social norms are also important to define the socio-economic model. Now, again, important thing is that the participatory communication, what we perceive, that is questioning dominant expert-centric paradigm of development. Whether we are questioning the dominant expert-centric paradigm of development, who says? That is again the very important question in the participatory communication. Says the oligarchy. Whatever we talk about democracy, at the end of the day, says oligarchy. And here lies the question, the questioning the dominant expert-centric paradigm of development. If I say that I am an election specialist, no. So, but if I say that this is right, many of you might get influenced by it without questioning it. Pradipto is our student. He said that, okay, let's call IQAC as the head. So if he comes, so this is a mutual thing, you understand, that I'm here to deliver a speech. But none of you are questioning why IQAC will be here. The question is also very important. So you are not questioning your teacher. You are not questioning the society. You are not questioning the pattern, the norms. You are only giving answers. Only giving answers without questioning anything rather. This is very interesting. So, based on what? We are casting our vote. We are casting vote based on our social capital. The same thing happens, you know. The same thing happens when some of the students are very popular in a college. At the end of the day, he or she is using the social capital. You know, he is having 10 friends with him or her. They are going to have some good fun outside the campus. And at the time of elections, you are using the social capital like we use as a charismatic domination at the time of election in the Indian scenario. So this is important. Whatever happens in constitutional democracy, we have to question first and question the state-centric paradigm of development. As I've already mentioned, empathy is there, ethics is there, but you need to question where is the economic growth. Ask any MLA, MP of the central government, they will say, no, economics is bad. We are looking into it. I met some chief of the party a few days back. He said, we are not doing well, but we are contesting China, you know. I mean, what? He said, the parliament never talked about China, we are talking about China. But you know, in China, most of the airports are having CIP gates, not VIP gates. And what is CIP? Commercially important person. There is no regular election that took place. But when you are contesting China in the Parliament of India without concentrating on the economy of China, then it is unfortunate. So dominant paradigm, any paradigm must be questioned. Now we have to have faith in the social resources of a community, any community. You cannot take the macro parameter and the micro parameter together. So both the communities must be involved through the networking and attitude of the voters. Now, as I've already mentioned, that we have to believe social and natural world also exists. Even in India, the social world exists, the natural world exists. And relationships are continuously changing. The relationships are continuously changing. The voting behaviors, rights, demands are continuously changing. Based on that, we have to analyze that how election works, because there may be certain case studies, and you know that scholars like Paul Bross developed the case study method, and there are many other scholars who have dealt with the election factors, particularly since 1977, because that remained very important rather. Now again, you know that we have to take, or when you can talk about a central metaphor in the accounts of elections, you know, anthropologists also help us. As I have already mentioned, the behavioral pattern, to see various ceremonies and performances that constitute the electoral practices in India. Now again, the anthropological studies of elections also clearly show how elections, or at least reached its height in recent years, otherwise it is latent political dynamics. If you don't interpret elections, it will be a latent political dynamics only. The long field work characteristic sometimes comes in. The discipline makes it possible to demonstrate how elections are rendered visible, otherwise subtle, if not invisible relationship or influence. And we need to study it as a scholar of international relations rather. Now, I think that this is also important for us. You know, we talk about Jogendra Jadhav, who made a young political scientist who was taken to Chandigarh University by CSDS as an analyst. Rajni Kothari and others we talk about, and we study about so many issues when we talk about election and its factors, to make it more and more participatory, more and more interesting, and more to increase the scientific and political debates. But as I have already mentioned, these debates, these analysis, these issues are related to community and society. So we cannot, as a political scientist, ignore certain factors when we deal with the election process in India as a whole. Because these processes are scientific, these behaviors are again scientific, and you know that there are rivalries maybe amongst the academicians on the process of elections. And because you know that this is a particular lecture for most of you are students, and we do the survey research based on what? It is not one political person of an university is coming to the television and say directly Trinamool jitbe or CPM jitbe or Congress jitbe. You need to go for a survey research for that. And I'm sure in West Bengal at least, none of the university are conducting the survey research very seriously on election process. But there are very many chances because, as I mentioned, that post-COVID situation has helped us to understand the political issues. Now the question is that, if I talk about West Bengal, do we really need an election? Do we really need an election? I don't have the answer rather. Whatever studies may be done, whatever analysis may be done, but we have not moved theoretically to find out a solution. As I mentioned, the diffusion of innovation among the scholars are there. And the stages of change has not been defined yet. In 2022, the stages has not yet been defined. So, actor network, that is important. Who are the actors, the political elites, the voters, has not even built up. So, the elitist approach, the oligarchic approach remained in the Indian society rather. And theories are there, behavioral theories are there, scientific theories are there, anthropological theories are there, methods are there. Now we need to relate this very interestingly, and those who are young scholars here, we will be doing our research on areas of election or the state politics. You will have to be very prudent enough to understand the history, how it is moving out, and to analyze the trend, how we are defining it, because this is important, the development of survey research and how to develop it, at least in the context of the in the West Bengal universities. We have so many universities, but the input and the output results do vary. So I cannot say directly, because as I have already mentioned, that if we are anti-national, then who are the nationals? That is again a very viable question to ask. And you know that I can just tell one story and I will end it. Tagore was going to Iran. For the first time he boarded the flight. So he said the inventions are good, but I'm not accepting the election, all the scientific inventions very positively. So people asked him why. The question is that the answer to the response to the question is that he said, we see 3-dimensional, 4-dimensionals. It is difficult for us to kill each other. But when I boarded the flight and see from above, it is only 1-dimensional. Easier for Japan, easier for any other country to kill the people from above. And they did it during the World War II. Similarly, interpreting population, looking at the population, looking at the masses has to be there. Masses, political leaders look at us in the way, in 1-dimensional approach, not in 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional approaches. We have to change it, and we need to change it if we really need to establish the constitutional democracy properly in the Indian context. Thank you so much.
So thank you, sir, for an intriguing, interesting and challenging lecture. From autocracy to democracy, you definitely made all of us sitting here think about the social, ethical and economic dimensions of the Indian elections. I'm sure our students have benefited tremendously from these discussions that are very much a part of our syllabus, yet they are focusing on diverse and deeply politically challenging ideas as well. We will now have the question and answer session, and for that I would request our honorable speakers to kindly come up to the dais And I would request Professor Pradipta Roy to kindly conduct the question answer session. And before I hand over the microphone to you students, I would like to ask you to please keep your questions short, direct, and make it to the point and relevant. And please finally ensure that it is a question. Thank you.
It's time for interaction after these thought-provoking sessions. So I think many of you have questions, but before you place your question, please express your name and your specific question, not your comments or observation or... Yes, Joitadi first.
First of all, I'd like to congratulate the organizer. What an interesting seminar. And of course, Professor Sanjay Kumar and Dr. Iman Kolla Lahiri for so engrossing presentation. And I hope I am not trespassing the right of the students to ask questions, but nevertheless, let me just make some few comments or request both of you to reflect on that. Professor Sanjay Kumar has very brilliantly, with a lot of statistics, have highlighted the present trends in Indian elections and how particularly the voting behavior is getting influenced by factors like personality. And Professor Lahiri have also pointed out that how issues like ethics and economics are influencing our voting choices, but some of the issues, to use the common parlance like the majoritarian politics, that's also something which is changing the very nature of elections in India. And I would like to request both of you to reflect on some other trends, like this whole debate about the subsidies and the dole politics, how that is also influencing our voting behavior. What will be your take on that? That the election scenario is becoming like a give and take process, that, okay, which political party will give this and that to us, and I will give my vote to that party. Is this democracy? Unfortunately, at the 75th year of our independence, and we are really voting on lines of getting what kind of benefits we can have. So subsidies, dole politics, these issues are engaging us in such a big way. And another issue is violence. Panchayat election is on the card in West Bengal, and unfortunately the last election was such a bloody event, and we are again we are afraid that maybe this time also so much of violence. Professor Partha Chattopadhyay's political society and all other theories are there to explain. But nevertheless, what can be done to stop this rising trend of violence? Money and muscle power was always there, but why can't we cope with that even in 2022? So these are perhaps some of the dole politics and violence and too much of personality centric election, that is, this lady or that man is the face of the Omuk party and that party, and I'm voting for this party because I'm voting for that person. But that is not democracy. Where are the lack of inner party democracy is such a big problem in India also. So maybe I will just like both of you to reflect maybe on dole politics, on violence, and on personality cult. Thank you once again, and thank you, the organizer.
Thank you, Joitadi. Who's next? Any student? Yeah. Oyon.
Good morning. I am Oyon Datta from Political Science Department. I would have one question for Dr. Kumar, that is what would be a sort of cost-benefit analysis, or would the benefits or the costs outweigh if we reverted to what is known as one nation, one election? Since people are they are autonomously splitting their ticket between the center and the state. Would a one nation, one election thing critically affect this, or would it not affect this at all? Like, what would be the cost benefit? And to Dr. Lahiri, I would have one question, that he was mentioning Panchayati Raj and its problems. So, have rural government institutions succeeded in their purpose, or have the costs outweighed the benefits?
One more question from Shopnil.
First of all, thank you so much for such a wonderful lecture. So it was really, really enriching. My name is Shopnil Biswas from the Political Science Department. This question is addressed to both of you. Like there are certain concerns and issues put up by you that there is enormous expense that is there into the election, and also the use of muscle power and use of certain tactics in order to get in the votes. Our election commission no doubt is working efficiently, and it is one of the most enormous body in this world. Right now it is observing the elections in Nepal, but there are certain issues with the affidavit process of candidates in the election, which I have seen personally, that there is no investigative or rechecking method of the election commission in order to verify the facts that are mentioned in the affidavit of a particular candidate. So what is your suggestion on this part? Because in this affidavit thing, they don't disclose their assets which are there with them. They don't disclose the cases that are against a particular candidate. So here a lot of things are being suppressed from the public. So what improvement can be brought in this supervision or mechanism to approach the candidates and have a supervision on their activities while the election is going on, and also about the expense of the particular candidate?
Thank you, Shopnil. Now over to our resource persons.
Let me start from the last question. His concern is about affidavits. How do we make these affidavits effective? Because we all know that people may not be putting the right information or the correct information in affidavit. I will give you one example to suggest what could be done. I'm not saying that every person in this country, when we have to file our income tax return, I'm not saying that every person in the country is filing absolutely correct income tax return. But I think a very large number of people, when they have to file their income tax return every year, we file it very, very meticulously. We don't want to make necessary mistake. We are very careful. Why we are very careful? Because there is a system of scrutiny. And what is that system of scrutiny? Randomly things are checked. It is not possible for the government of India to check the income of each and every person who files an income tax return. But there is a random scrutiny, and even if you are even if you consult the chartered accountant, a good chartered accountant would say, "Theek theek bhar dijiye, don't hide this, don't hide that," because if you are held in a scrutiny, you may be in a trouble, and then if you are not caught, theek hai, chalega. So the scrutiny, the point is that I think if there is a mechanism which Election Commission develops of scrutiny, it is not possible for Election Commission to, technically it may be possible to look at each and every affidavit. But if there is a system of scrutiny of 10%, 20%, I think people will be more careful. And the day one or two candidates get convicted, if somebody files a case in the court that this is the information which has been put in by the candidate, so if there is a something of that kind, if starts happening, then I think candidates will be more careful. So scrutiny is one thing which can be introduced. Simultaneous elections. See, the evidence is very clear in my latest recent book on elections in India, an overview. There is a chapter on simultaneous elections. And why did I do that chapter? It's a database chapter. And it is very clear that if you hold simultaneous elections for Lok Sabha and Assembly elections, or Assembly elections are held within a gap of less than 6 months of the Lok Sabha elections, there is a chance, there are enormous chances of people voting for the same party for both the Assembly election and the Lok Sabha election. The chances, I'm not saying absolutely, this is a very high chances, 70%, 75% chances. If you hold the state assembly elections, dealing state and Lok Sabha elections, the chances of people voting for the same party goes down drastically, because when people make up their mind, which party to vote, which for a state assembly and Lok Sabha election, they think more carefully. To just give you another example to explain, if your department is holding an event in the college, today your department, political science and maybe the philosophy department, both these departments have jointly organized this lecture. But suppose the same day the college was organizing something, or suppose this is a university or your department is organizing something, and the university has organized a big event, and the chief minister is coming or someone else is coming, nobody would come to this event. This event will get overshadowed. The point I'm trying to make is that there is a tendency of bigger events to overshadow the smaller events. So the bigger parties will have undue influence in politics, and smaller parties will get marginalized. And there is an evidence for that, the evidence which I have put it in the chapter. So that question about freebies, money and muscle power. See, money and muscle power, why do we see more people with tainted background getting elected in the Lok Sabha and the Vidhan Sabha elections? And this is connected to the leadership issue. What is happening in India, people are not voting, or lesser proportion of people are voting looking at the merits and demerits of the candidate. They are not voting for candidate. A lot of people vote for the party, and a more disturbing trend now is that people look at only the leader of the party, and I did mention that in my lecture. If I go by the findings of our own studies, own surveys, almost 65% of Indian voters nationally vote for the party. They don't look at the candidate. Smaller states, assembly election, the proportion of voters who vote for the candidate, not for the party, is much higher. In a state like Goa, when the Goa went to polls this year, almost 65-70% voters in Goa, they choose the candidate. They don't choose the party. In Himachal now, almost 45-50% voters choose the candidate, not the party. So the party-based democracy and party being heavily dominated by one leader, that is one of the root cause of all kinds of people getting elected to the assembly and parliament. When I say all kinds of people, tainted background, because large number of people are not voting looking at the merits and demerits of the candidate. And when the leader of the party campaigns like, look at me and vote for me, don't look at your candidate, this is the result. I think for this, if you may say, where will the remedy come from? It won't come from any rule. There can't be a rule that you can't vote for the party. You have to look at the candidate. It can't be. It is voters' mobilization. It's voters' education, voters' own views. What do you look at when you are going to vote on the election day? So that is the reason why we see criminals or people with tainted background getting elected in the assemblies and parliament. And the last question which I would like to attempt is about the freebies. See, freebies, the kind of influence which we think freebies is making on the voting behavior, it's not to the extent as we may believe sitting in the room, because first, lot of political parties, almost all political parties make promises or distribute things, but we all have one vote. There are 5 political parties contesting elections, or even 2, at least 2 parties are there. Voters are getting things from both the parties, but voters don't think that the voter is only making up his or her mind because he is getting XYZ, because everybody is offering. And the reach of the parties to the voters of distributing freebies or making promises is not to the extent of making parties or enabling parties to win elections only because of promises or because of the freebies. There are several other factors which comes into play, and one factor is this strong party affiliation. This is the time in India when we see a very strong divide on ideological lines, not even on ideological lines, pro party A and anti party B. So these freebies, if there are strong supporters of party A, even if party B is giving freebies, it's very difficult for them to, break away supporters of party B. So freebies is not a good thing in politics, but I think sitting in this room, we overestimate the impact of freebies on voting behavior. Maybe election violence, or I would like Professor Lahiri to maybe respond on that.
Yeah, I agree with you, sir. But ma'am, as I've already mentioned, that the free gifts and particularly the subsidies, I think these two things are very different. Subsidies we can deal independently, and free gifts like giving money to the clubs and all, we can deal independently. Because as I've already mentioned, that any society, they are having their own method of governance, own method of democracy. So subsidy sometimes is the right of the population. Suppose we don't have abundant resources of natural gases in that way. For example, in India, all the LPG gas or the household gases we use. So it is the decision of the government to at least supply the basic essentials on a subsidized rate, maybe. Because this is important, because considering the economic condition of the population, this sometimes becomes important for us, even for the middle class family. Because I don't know how the finance minister said that if it's 18 lakh rupees, 18 lakh this per annum is the middle class ratio of India, then you know that even if you get 1 lakh or 1.5 lakh and you are maintaining a family in today's society in India, it is not that much money compared to the money or the university profits are getting in any other countries, particularly in the first world countries. So sometimes we also need subsidies for balancing everything. On the other way around, the free gifts like the clubs, sometimes you know that if you are going, I don't know, a recent this television interview was taken that government is giving free gifts not only in the monetary terms, free gifts in the ideological terms too. Suppose you are contesting a party like BJP, and the state government just 2-3 days back has taken a decision that the mayor of Calcutta will take the responsibility to worship river Ganges every evening. So the press people came to me and asked me, do you agree to this? I said no. Because why it is important for state to offer Ganga Puja? Belur Math is there. Dakshineshwar is there. In Hardwar, it is a religious place. Calcutta is not a religious place to worship river Ganges every day. Even if you want to do, you do it independently. Anyone is having the right to do it independently, or go to Belur Math to see that, or Dakshineshwar, or Hardwar, or Harkipuri, wherever you want to do. But it's not the task of the government. Again, it is not the task of the government to regulate Air India or the flight, because that is not an essential thing. You can give it to the private agencies. But maintaining a proper local train is essential for the government. It is essential for the population. So government has to understand that what is important, what is essential for the public rather, because public utility, public demands are not much. It is very limited. I want to see that proper LPG gas is coming in at my place at a subsidized rate. I'm happy that government is at least taking care of me, doing something. Because government, we form it in either way of the one. Whether, I don't, sir, has already explained the methods, but once the government is formed, it is also the responsibility of the government to take care of the voters. But giving money unnecessarily,
In northeastern region, I worked for a very long time, and you know that suppose the cost of LPG gas is 900 rupees. If there is a blockade for 7 days, the same distributor will sell the LPG gas at 2,500 rupees. Just a blockade for 7 days. And you know, this blockade is also supported by the elites. So in 2012, Manipur was not this Manipur what is see today. I was organizing a conference there with MEA, and Ranjan Mathai was about to go in Manipur at that time, was the foreign secretary at that time, on BIMSTEC issues. I landed 2-3 days before in Manipur. The dean of Manipur University, I said I want to go to Mairang to see Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, this INS center. So he said, okay, you can go. I said, how to go? You can take my car. And also you just refuel the car from my place. I said, from your place? He said, we sell petrol. So petrol is available at Dean's house. I said, okay, how much it is? Well, pay to whatever you feel like, but you take 5-10 liters from my house. Now, this is also a question that how to rule and where to rule. We are talking about the violence. Violence is coming in a different way. Violence, if you disturb the local economy, then again violence will come. If you show them something better, violence will come in. I hope, again, sir will agree that with me, that black money and illegal money are two different things. Filing a ITR report or the income tax report is absolutely fine. We all do it. We take utmost care. But many of the people in India doesn't even know that how to file ITR in that way. But they are selling something at a local level. He's not just simply not giving the tax, but that amount is also having a local utility. That is a black money, but that is not an illegal money. You are not getting that money by selling arms, illegal arms or trafficking. You are not giving the tax. You are not giving the tax by selling rice or sugar or potato, the basic amenities in a local shop. So how could you say that demonetization, suddenly a government has taken demonetization? I tell you one thing, if you say about the violence, we all of us are against violence. But at the same time, demonetization, you ask anybody, everyone was very happy. Afterwards, they have understood the problem. Why they were happy? Because all of us love to tell ourselves that we are very ethical, as I have already mentioned. See, they are in trouble now. When you see others in trouble, standing, or they don't know how to manage the money, the local promoter, we become very happy. Few days back, when former education minister and his girlfriend got arrested, the Bengalis are sitting in front of television like this whole day. Because Bengalis has never 1,000 crores money in that way together in a room. So it is not a question that money is in Kerala people may have. But in West Bengal, we have never seen that this amount of money. So we are not concerned about the issue that this is an unethical crime that has been done by a former education minister. But we are concerned about the money, and we are seeing it like this, that we are seeing some person from some other planet coming to the city. So this is the psychological problem. And there lies the question that how do we define our societal position in the society? And here the charisma plays an important role. I can tell you, even the first people behind the bus, if they comes out after 5-6 years and contest the elections, they will own it. They will again win the election. They will again get the support of the people. So, you know that these things is a continuous process because things are controlled by the elites. And as I've mentioned, in democracy also, it is the oligarchy who says, we don't say. We can organize a seminar, we can read his book, we can interpret certain things, but at the end of the day, says oligarchy. In democracy, as I've already mentioned, at least we have the right to speak or discuss. Sometimes many of the institutions are not having this right to discuss that whatever we are concerning about. And violence will be there. There is no society where you are not sacrificing to the ruler, you will not be excused. Even, you know, nobody has been excused. Jesus Christ to Mahatma Gandhi. Violence was everywhere. For what reason? Galileo was killed. For what reason? Why Lavoisier was killed, who invented oxygen? Why Socrates was killed? So violence was there in every society. Whenever you are contesting the existing pattern, the force will be applied. I mentioned in my lecture about Shankha Ghosh, Bondura Mati torture. So you are doing it fine, but state always follows you. Shomay pele upre nebe gola. Shankha Ghosher kobitata আছে. That whenever state will get a chance, they will kill you. And that has been proven in the history. And violence at Panchayati Raj is the outcome of that. Because even if we study Satre or any other scholars, this is now in our blood. Even if we see a dead body, we'll just cross it. Because you know that everyday violence is, we are grasping it, we are making it of our life. So, you know, I have from Paganas who used to tell me, that, sir, this year my house has been broken for 5 times. At last, my father has agreed to do that part. So this, the thing, because scarcity of the resources, that's the basic of political science. And parallel election, I don't think that we have to respect the democratic pattern, as sir has already mentioned. What is important is the psychological factor of the voters, that why do we vote? What are the questions we are asking? Why we are unnecessarily seeing the political debates in television? We don't question that. As I mentioned, that we all become happy during demonetization because we thought that others were becoming richer than me. We became happy to see so many money, at least to see that Bengalis has never seen that much of money. Most of us have never seen. So we are seeing it in the television. How could a Bengali girl is having so much of money? Nobody is bothered about the crime. Nobody is bothered. We never question the crime. We always said, ato taka, this much of money. We are really interested about the money, not about the crime. It has got subdued, but people has remembered. Money was found. So this is how we do the behavioral pattern. And what is your question? His question? Huh? Okay. Again, this comes in. Sir has already mentioned that you are cropping in. But how to control black money or even the illegal money? A SP gives 1 crore rupee bribe to the political party to get a posting in the border area. To get a posting in the border area. And you see, even if we know that Nepal is not pro to India, how many foreign service officers are interested to get a posting in SAARC in Nepal? So it is in our habit rather. We have been ruled by Britishers for so many years, but before that we have ruled by many. And if you see the Indian history altogether, every point of juncture, there is bribing. Nobody has given the affidavit and nobody asked the question. We have tolerated. We have tolerated the essence, so corruption is the basic thing. Corruption is there. And if you see, as I am mentioning about a movie by Satyajit Ray, Hirok Raja Deshits are made 50 years back, the same narrative is there. Hira nibena hira. So if you give hira, there is the same question of bribing somebody. Alternative is that, give food in Gopika and Bhagavan. Yes, food for all. But why hira is important? Why hira is important? But he is not giving actually. He is just showing it from outside. If you do well, I will give you. If you don't support me, I'll take it back. So the question of education is important in India. Proper education. I don't know about the future of the new education policy. Maybe value-added courses. What value will you add to the courses? That is again a very important question. Value-added courses UGC is talking about, but what are the values? What value will you add to the courses? What kind of courses? One point of time, I was in an open university. I said, my vice chancellor, ma'am, it's an open university, right? She said, yes. So we can introduce some innovative courses like cobbler certification course. Suppose if we certify a cobbler from an university, then Bata company or any other company will take the poor cobbler to give a job in his company. Maybe this probability may be there. Then she agreed. Then suddenly the executive committee said, no, this will create some kind of problem in the society. So we maintain the status quo. We love to maintain the status quo, like the Stoics. Maybe Plato and Aristotle, they also wanted to maintain the status quo. If the status quo is disturbed, oligarchy is disturbed. So even the debate between the mythological problem like Manusmriti, because anarchy was prevailing. So people has created a king, the Leviathan. So you see the history, you see the political writings, even the writings on war. Who has written the writings on war? It is Oppenheim. Who is in Oppenheim? The winner of the war. So winners of the war has written the history of politics or international relations. Again, you are questioning the idea of nation. Now, nation, as far as India is concerned, again contested. Nation, France is a nation. Then Britain may be a nation. Germany may be a nation. But India, it is a multi-ethnic country. A nation must be built up with one ethnic group. India is a constitutionally given land. Historically given land, protected by the Constitution of India. So, for protecting the Constitution of India, we have to do what we need to do. Because mechanisms we have to find out. As I mentioned, that everything is there within the society. Because every society has its own mechanism. Maybe corruption is there. Maybe violations are there. But to do it, we have to take action. The behavioral pattern we need to change.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Divakar Jha from Political Science Department, 5th semester. So my question is to Professor Sanjay, sir, that we can see the increasing influence of Rahul Gandhi by the Bharat Jodo Yatra. So do you really think, sir, that BJP would be able to retain the government in 2014 with the same margin or a less margin, or it is going to be increased? And then one more thing, that is BJP's influence has not been that effective in southern part of India.
सुन नहीं पा रहे हैं. पहला क्वेश्चन तो सुन लिया. First question I have understood. Second, what is the second question?
My second question is, BJP's influence has not been that effective in southern part of India compared to the northern part of India. Can we see any change in voting percentage in the upcoming General Assembly election? Thank you.
Anyone, any other question? Swapnil again.
As because a very interesting issue of simultaneous election has been raised, so this question needs to be put out there. Sir said that there would be a trend of people voting for the same party with regards to one nation, one election if it is held. But we also have certain very specific examples which are against this thing, like the elections in Odisha, like the Delhi MCD polls, or if we take up the election in Assam, I am forgetting the year, but there also the party incumbent in the state government and the party incumbent in the central government was voted differently. The people reacted differently. Like in Odisha, it has been always the trend that BJD gets the state and BJP gets a higher up in the central elections. So this is one thing. And so second thing, sir, in our country, simultaneous election was a trend from for the first three elections. But after that, when the state government was in a way toppled by our prime minister due to her political reservations against the state government using the emergency rule, after that the state started to fall out from the simultaneous election of the central government. So it was an existing system, and we have seen that the election commission has also given out cost effective analysis that it would be much easier to conduct in a cost effective way the elections if it is held simultaneously. And for smaller parties, sir, it will be more beneficial because they have to spend only in one election at a one bracket, not in the both the election at two different times. So, sir, taking all these things into consideration, will one nation, one election not be a better opportunity for the Indian elections to grow as a whole?
I had like one more question for Dr. Lahiri, which was missed out. That are Panchayati Raj institutions a net liability or a net benefit for us?
No further questions, I believe. Thank you.
No, I think. So starting from on the simultaneous elections, cost effective पे मैं पहले बताने मतलब I'm just trying to, and I will again give you an example. Some of the things, first we have to, the examples which you gave, there are examples when, you know, simultaneous elections or elections have been held in quick succession, but people have voted differently. Odisha is not the example which you are citing. Only last election BJP got better vote, but all previous elections, almost people voted in the similar manner. But I will give you one example of forcing things. What is, and you are giving an example of 50s, 60s and 70s. Those were the time it was naturally happening. In a sense, the cycle of election was such that, you know, election for state assembly and Lok Sabha was held together. Now, what is government proposing? The government is proposing forcing all elections to be held simultaneously. Forcing by law. It has to be done by law. If you are not doing that, you are violating law. So it has to be done. Cost effective. There are many things in the country which can be cost effective. So can we, and the fact which I mentioned earlier about regional party, it's not that bigger parties would dominate the election. We have to check it factually. And as I said, I have done that analysis for all the simultaneous elections which has been held in this country since 1952 till 2019. Even now, in 2019 also, there were simultaneous elections for few states along with the Lok Sabha. Because the cycle is such. Sikkim, Andhra, couple of other states. It is factually, you check it factually, you will figure out that bigger parties dominates people. The tendency of people voting for the same party is higher, and when the election takes place differently, so it's factually checked. It's not about whether it will happen or not, and I'm anticipating that the same trend might continue. It may not continue, but that's all about research. You look at the past data, and when I look at the data, I see a trend, and I believe that more or less the same trend might continue. This cost-effective thing. So I'm coming to that. Your father tells you that what I'm going to do is I will buy, उसको कहते हैं एक थान कपड़े का, one shirt का एक थान खरीद लेते हैं, and we will get you stitch 10 shirts, और एक पैंट का कपड़ा एक थान बड़ा सा रोल, and we will get you stitch 10 pants. It's going to be very cost effective. What will be your reaction? And there I can give you several examples of that kind. Cost effective doesn't mean that it should be imposed. There are बहुत सारे examples like Delhi in the marriage season. There is always news about, you know, traffic jam, etc., etc. Suppose tomorrow government comes out with a proposal. These are the only 5 dates for marriages. and all the marriages has to take place on those dates, which is 10th of December, 10th of November, 10th of January, and everyone has to get married on these dates because it is cost effective. You have one pandal and all the shadis will take place in one pandal, cost effective. Traffic bhi congestion nahi hoga, everything will go smooth. How are we going to react to that? So cost effective जो theory है ठीक है, cost effective तो जरूर होगा. अब आप so that theory I don't buy personally, and also feasibility के बहुत सारे सवाल हैं. Election Commission just gave a statement about 7 days ago. Election Commission said, the Chief Election Commissioner, we are ready. If the government asks us to hold simultaneous election, we should be able to do that. But can we ask a question? What prevented Election Commission from announcing dates for Himachal, a commission which is not able to announce dates for 2 states on the same day? Himachal के dates अलग announce होते हैं और गुजरात के लिए dates on a separate day. In Gujarat, elections are being held on 2 dates, 1st and the 5th. So what is the explanation for this? So there are lots and lots of logistics issues in that also. और इनका सवाल BJP 2024, whether BJP will win, go up, go down. I think we can leave these questions aside अभी के लिए. But I don't have any research data for that, but my personal view is that 2024 election is an election where, in my opinion, the winner is, in my opinion, I know the winner. NDA will retain power. There's no way that NDA could be defeated in 2024. Badhenge, ghatenge, it will all depend upon the circumstances. It's still 1.5 years to go. बस यही तो सवाल थे और I don't think I've left out any other question.
Once again, I wish to thank our speakers for engaging all of us in these lively, enriching and multidimensional issues regarding elections in India. And of course, our students are also gearing up and getting ready for their own presentations on these very issues, which I am sure will be equally engrossing. We will now break for lunch, and students, you will be moving out from the back end gate. Please assemble here by 1:30 p.m. for our student presentations, and our professors will be accompanying our honorable guests and faculties from other institutions. Thank you.